Okay, so we're now ready to start talking about landforms that are going to be created by rivers, and we are going to follow a typical river from its origin in the mountains to its emptying into the ocean. So let's start with the mountains, and one thing is it's going to have very high topography, so that means that it's going to have a lot of energy. So you should be familiar with the concept of potential energy, and potential energy depends on height. So that this water that is going to originate in the mountains is going to have a lot of potential energy because it's going to be falling down as it is coming out of the mountains. Okay, now normally it's in an environment where there's a lot of rocks, so that means that it's going to tend to cut down, and it's going to tend to make very steep canyons. So not so much cutting sideways as it is going to be cutting down. Some things that are going to occur with this are going to be waterfalls. So where the water goes over a resistant type of rock, it's going to make a waterfall, and it's going to very slowly erode backwards, eroding that waterfall away. Another thing that is associated with mountain streams is going to be rapids. As this water is traveling over rocks, it's going to make the water very turbulent, and so it's going to have rapids as a result of that. Another thing is mountain lakes. So sometimes there's some kind of a natural barrier to the river flowing, and it's going to back up behind it, and so that's going to be a mountain lake. So all of these are going to be associated with the mountains. So the some of the other characteristics, the rivers are going to be relatively shallow. The rivers are not going to be very wide. There is not going to be a whole lot of discharge yet because these mountain streams have not started to coalesce into a main stream yet. Okay, so next let's talk about what is going to happen to this stream as it comes out of the mountains and it comes down to an area that is relatively flat. So so the slope is going to be greatly reduced, and so that means that the speed of the river is going to decrease, and then once the speed decreases, this river is no longer going to be able to hold a lot of the sediment that was in it, and it's just going to drop it. So one of the things that's going to happen is it's going to start to develop an alluvial fan. So that means that, sorry about that. So the river is going to be coming out of these mountains. So the mountains are over here, and then the river is going to come out, and then let's say that the river originally goes in this direction. Well, it's going to start dropping its load, and eventually there's going to be so much material here that the river is just going to choose a different direction in order to, it's going to turn out to be faster to go this way, but then it's going to start to choke that up as well, and so then it's going to maybe go over here and choke that up. And so eventually what you're going to have is a whole bunch of sediment that is going to accumulate out here, and that's going to be called an alluvial fan. Another thing that's going to happen is you're going to have braided streams. And so that means that a stream that is coming out of here, once it gets all choked up, it might decide to turn, and then it might get back into another channel. So that there's not one nice river that comes out of the mountains and onto the plains. It's just a series of interconnecting rivers. And so we're going to call that a braided stream. All right, let's take a break, and now let's talk about what's going to happen to this river when it is on the plain.